Good morning and welcome to our October 29th, 2024 Board of County Commissioners 9 a.m. board briefing meeting. Let the record reflect that we have 4 commissioners present, Kearns, French, Jordan, and CUNY, and Commissioner Waldrop is joining us online. There we go. Very good. I know she's busy at a conference, so thank you for joining us. So then next, we've got a busy morning because we've got to be off on top for our ribbon cutting. So I'm going to try to keep us on task today. So we'll start with Kevin Norris.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kevin Norris, Director of IT. With me today are Sean Dimitrovich, my Assistant Director, and Justin Roach, IT Manager, Security Operations. I want to talk today about funding requests for continued managing detection and response services from Critical Insight. Next page. Just a little bit of background very quickly. We acquired Critical Insight's MDR services beginning 2024. At the time of acquisition, we only secured 1 year of funding for 2024, mainly because this is a burgeoning field, 24/7 security operations center coverage for clients. So we thought, let's be safe with this. We have a 5-year agreement where we can roll over or get out of the contract each year. We just asked for funding last year for only 2024. What we want to do now is pursue funding for the next 4 years. Next page. Critical Insight, they help us by managing cyber threat detection, investigation response capabilities. They provide 24/7 threat monitoring of our network, endpoints, applications for any kinds of signs of suspicious activity. And they also, maybe one of the best features they provide to us is their advanced analytics to identify potential threats. We hear from them continually on what the burgeoning threats are, if we have software related to those types of threats, how to maintain and manage that as safely as possible. Next page. Other benefits. They provision the other benefits from them is that they provide provision of a high level of security expertise and latest threat intelligence. And they're very cost effective to do the type of work that they do for us. We would have to have a much larger fleet of security operations staff on our staff to accommodate the type of work that they do. And one of the most important reasons to have a SOC, a security operations center providing MDR services, is that we can retain cyber liability insurance. Other users of Critical Insight are Shrek. Shrek uses the same company for their SOC purposes as well. Annual costs for Critical Insight's MDR services for 2024 was just under $150,000. Next page, please. That was, already paid for, already used. Moving forward, their agreement is for 5 years, 24 through 28. We're looking at for 25 through 28, a 5% increase per year. We've already have within our budget costing mechanism for the $157,000 we need for 2025. What we're asking for now is just the ability to fund this through 2028 on an annual basis, approval for that. We do have an auto renewal each year that we'll have to go through and sign a new support for services. That changes annually because this field changes rapidly annually, but the guarantee for a 5% increase in cost year over year is a pretty good thing for us to have. Also, we have a 60-day opt-out period at the end of each year if we want to move away from their services. The nice thing is that we're not tying up a lot of money, the entire cost at the bottom line there. For 4 years, we will be have the ability to just fund year for year at the cost that you see there. That's pretty much it. We just respectfully request the BOCC's approval for this funding moving forward. Any questions?
It's pretty important these days that we have this, you know, this ability and capability, and we can't do it all in-house, so you have to have an outside agency, outside person help you. So, but this is an additional request to your budget since you're trying to hold to your 2024 budget, is that correct?
2025, we've already baked this into our budget. We have the funding covered for that, but we haven't asked for specific granting.
Commissioner, the charge to the general fund was no greater than 20.
Okay.
And that does include this cost in that.
Which then we be making sure that it's in there, and then part of this would get allocated to the. I think of the word. Indirect cost
Allocation.
cost allocation plan. There we go.
Thank you, Randy.
Necessary. And unfortunately, in the situation that we're in with cybersecurity, the way it is, we've got to have services like this. Kevin and his team do a really good job ensuring that the county has these types of trusted vendors. We had a tabletop exercise with some cybersecurity individuals, and it just shows the robustness that the team has on focusing on making sure that our network is secure, our the bad people are staying out, and we are continuing to invest in that area.
Just beyond our current, what we're doing today, elections right now is a huge focus for us the next few weeks. So we'll get back to it and continue to work on that.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Good morning.
Good morning, commissioners. All right, we're putting three before you. This is the short one. Come November 12th, we have a lot more items, so bear with us as we get through these in preparation for the January 1st. So this is the first round of these. I'll try to be succinct in these. The first one is just a requirement for the Skrills charter. A little background on the Skrills. It's the Spokane County Regional Interlocal Leadership Structure. During the time of the transition with the BHO to the ASO, there are certain statutes that require that regional transitions of leadership provide guidance in the process from the BHO to the ASO. That went away, meaning that none of the regions were required to continue those. Spokane County has opted to do so, which has put us in a better position to have conversations with the State Department of Health and other regional players in the field, primarily managed care organizations and other insurance parties. So this leadership structure helps guide, provide information to the region, and gives us direct access to the healthcare authority. I think that's the important aspect of this. When the board passed the original resolution, when the Skrills statute went away, we continued it for a year, and it's been re-upped annually. Because of the benefit to the county, we're recommending that as we come up to our annual, we actually make a change to the resolution, putting out for 5 years. So we've reduced the administrative burden coming back annually to re-explain it. And it gives, again, the authority of the board to continue the Skrills as they see fit and to dissolve as they see fit. So that will remain, but we won't have to bring it forward every 5 years. So that will happen here on December 31st. We'll put this forward to the board for your December hearing. I'm not sure which one. All we're requesting again is a continuation and extension for a 5-year agreement on this one.
I'll just say is having the chair of the board also chairs that meeting. And there was a point where we were looking to not have it any longer. And there was a lot of community partners and other commissioners, because other commissioners from the 6 counties. Part of 6, wanted us to keep it going, and it's just a good forum to have the topics come forward, so.
And all the interlocals are still in place with other municipalities as well as with the state, so no change in those. Thankfully, we didn't put a limit on those, so that was continuing in perpetuity. The other thing about this, I think, is really important, just as a reminder, when another one of the insurance companies wanted to come into our region, expand Medicaid, which none of the region wanted, Scrolls was the primary method by which we were able to tell the state no, and then they backed down from that one. So it really gives a great voice to the region, saying not adding additional ones without some plan or continuity of how that service is provided, if it improves or doesn't. And from that time, we haven't seen a need. All right, you'll see that coming forward. Next one is our Phoenix Apartments. So this is another one that's coming forward because we are required to talk about the lease and put it forward for public comment and review, and then the board will then vote on that. So there's a period of time coming up where this will be required to be open for public comment. I'll actually give a background on what the Phoenix Apartment and the Transitional Housing Program is, and then we'll be asked for it.
Yeah, so the Phoenix Apartments, located at 703 East Hartson, consists of 40 units, 39 of those being studio apartments for rent at $350 a month, and one bedroom apartment for $375 a month. And this was really established for individuals experiencing behavioral health disorders coming out of acute care settings like Eastern State Hospital or local evaluation and treatment facilities. Next slide, please. Currently, the BHASO division holds a contract with Pioneer Human Services for the actual transitional housing program for individuals. And those are individuals that have a behavioral health diagnosis, that are enrolled in treatment services and working towards long-term housing. For about 6 months is how long an average stay is, though there could be extensions based on the need. You want to speak more to the lease agreement?
Yeah, so there's going to be two major changes we're asking for this lease agreement. Per the statute, will have its open period of comment, but the lease currently is an annual one. Come back every year. What we're asking, and we discussed with legal, is saying pushing it out for a 5-year, again, reducing administrative burden, have to bring it forward, but still contains the same language within the resolution, as well as the contract with them, that any given time it can be dissolved either by mutual agreement or by the board's discretion. So if and when this is a county-owned building, that board ever wanted to either sell that or change the vendor, this is something that the board could still opt to do, but instead of having to come back every year and do this, we could do it every 5. Yeah, protections are still in place for the board to be able to make the determination. I think this is important to recognize just the service. This is another 40 beds that are online that prevent homelessness, and for individuals who have significant psychiatric conditions for being out on the street. It's not often identified as part of the service array that we provide in terms of bed availability, but this is critical, ensuring that those discharged from Eastern State Hospital, these were some of the most chronic individuals, and they're effective in getting them into long-term and stable housing because of the programming we do. So again, another wonderful benefit and asset that the county does that's not often recognized in the community. And you'll be seeing this come forward because then we'll put it forward to open comment period, and then the board's open hearing session will have the opportunity for the public to actually voice it there, and then I'll give an update, and that will be scheduled sometime in December because of the holidays. Any questions?
Justin, on I see where Pioneer does the majority of the maintenance on a facility, outside snow plowing, snow removal and whatnot. How are capital needs addressed for the building, either under the lease or just future planning within your team?
Yeah, so the primary responsibility is on the county on this one because it's our county-owned asset. In the past, we've looked at different options to energize or to make it more efficient. So we've had SNAP was one of the biggest ones through a grant that we were able to replace all of it through a federal subsidy. So that part was great. So anytime that we have an availability to replace equipment, make it more efficient, we do so and find grants and available services to offset that cost. But the primary responsibility is on the county. And we've been doing continual maintenance on this, so most of the cost is just wear and tear. And we also do a pretty good job of working because the program is internal. Although we do have issues that there are certain damage that occur, we don't see those in the same rate in the community or the housing first, where oftentimes individuals for that first couple of months don't understand the transition from homelessness into an apartment. And what does that mean in terms of maintaining that internal equipment as well as learning how to use the equipment. But for our sake, because we managed it so carefully, we're able to offset most of the costs.
Questions?
Most of the increased costs recently have been inflation and staffing. So most of that has been COLA on there. And then also insurance has gone up drastically as well. Next slide. So this is the schedule for the public comment period, and then it'll come before the board on the 3rd for the session for be able to allow the public to come and speak. And then I'll be there too to express a little bit to the public, and then hopefully with no other issues, we'll move forward. All right, next slide.
So the next slide is relating to opioid settlement funding. So a brief timeline of events. The commissioners approved 4 priority areas, one of those being the build out of a crisis relief and sobering center that we know will take some time to get built up and on board. So another investment approved by the board was immediate influx of funding for sobering and triage services within Spokane County. We did put that out to RFP in the early summer and came back July 23rd for the board, with STARS being the selected proposal for sobering and triage services, which would be not just that initial sobering services, a safe place for intoxicated individuals to go to sober from those substances, but the additional triage service, which would be a more comprehensive assessment and engagement with an individual at a very critical time once they're functionally sober and ready for that next phase of their treatment, as well as any additional needs that help support them in their recovery. But let's see. And then last week, Justin spoke to some of the modifications or recommendations regarding the 1.2 million appropriated for or associated with the STARS sobering and triage services. Next slide, please. What we are looking to put forward is a contract with STARS. The initial contract would be, we're hoping to backdate till October 1. We've been working in conjunction with STARS to get this program up and running. They've been starting that process, starting at the beginning of October, with the hope of being able, if the board wants to approve the contract moving forward, to provide services as soon as possibly November 1st for 6 beds, working our way up to 10 beds for sobering and triage services. We would be looking at opioid settlement funds for that initial 3-month period for startup and initiation of the development of that programming, but then switching over to braided funding with substance abuse block grant funding, with the plan to titrate down the opioid settlement funds and titrate up the fully funded sustainable funding through SABG by July 1st of 2025. And Justin, I don't know if you want to speak to the other agreement regarding.
For the board's direction, we'll be having that so long as Commerce comes forward with a final review. The funding was split for the purchase of Cali to continue the services, which would be withdrawal management and further expansion here in the future. The goal for this part is just the triage and sobering services to get started. As we began already by October 1, we hope that they'll begin to open those beds November 1st. But with the board's approval, it will come before you on the 5th. So there's some little carryover. We were able to implement the current services through existing contract with the promise of the board for this ramp up cost for building this out beginning. Well, back dates October 1st. So again, because we partnered with them in Commerce, the goal is for them to do not only the renovations through their current and competitive grants, which reduce this overall direct service contract to remove renovation. Because we're doing our purchase, development, improvement partnership, they'll be doing their improvements through their other competitive grants.
I apologize since I wasn't here last week, but so they're going to be up and running by November 1.
They're already, the hardest part is getting the staff and getting them. We had them begin that October 1st with the plan for this November 1st. So the goal is, yes, But the physical space is there. The staff will be all in place by November 1, pending the board's approval for the ramp-up cost beginning the 5th. So we're both taking a shot, but we were able to continue that through existing contracts to get it up.
How many beds are they gonna have?
So with the sobering and triage, we're going to start with 6 with a plan to ramp up. We're working with the Department of Health to allow us to have more utilizing the upper space. We're still working on that aspect. It does require amendment to their existing one. Department of Health is pretty backlogged right now, but I put a request to that. Starting at 6 with the potential to ramp up to more, up to 20. Here's the deal. If we run 6 beds right now, every day, 23 hours, 59 minutes, that's 180 people that we serve per month. We want to be mindful of that because the cost at much greater could be over $2 million. And that's where it's a little bit more challenging to ramp up to like 20 beds. So we're trying to look at ebb and flow. The other side is we have some acute care diversion funds we got through a proviso through the state, which is great for our region. We're looking to also create triage. So for 23 hour and 59 minute, they'll be receiving a sobering service. Then when they transition from that, it'll go to triage for whatever length of time is needed. No restriction on the time frame for that. So that part's great. So they can remain there in a bed recliner until at which point they're safe to transition to another service. The goal there really being ensuring that they're not going back onto the street without some connection to services. So we're able to get around that 23 hour, 59 minute with the triage portion. That will go into effect fully July 1st. So that will pretty much be the additional beds up to 20. So it's going to be an ebb and flow between sobering and triage. Same thing I'm proposing to do at the relief center as well.
And it can be law enforcement, fire, or, well, fire does some transport, but, community members can also come in.
That's correct. Currently, STARS has a contract with the city fire to have their Car 50, which does transport individuals. It's the detox van. And they also do runs at the ER to offset some of the individuals going there to reduce unnecessary hospitalizations. Because we'll bring these online, we've also been talking with the Valley to have connection with individuals transitioning from either fire or the sheriff's department as well.
Thank you. Any other questions for?
You'll see that on the 5th. Perfect. Oh, yes, I did. This was one where we've been having a conversation with the Valley. They've been very excited about all of our opiate funding priorities, and they want to be a part of it. In fact, a lot of the OAC has been asking input on our community involvement, the feedback given on the priorities, and wanting to be connected in some way to the efforts we're doing in the community. So the council met a couple weeks ago, and they voted on a couple priorities, 2 of which they're going to be doing internally. One of those is they want to join our project with the Crisis Relief and Sobering Center, recognizing that bed availability is a huge need in our region, and they want to be a part of having the accessibility, but also support a regional response to the need. Part of the agreement, and this is I've been working with Scott very closely and with the Valley, was that if there was any agreement to share their opiate funds, of course, we'd have to create an interlocal agreement to ensure that there was some continuity of service and expectations. I think that was a big one. More importantly, there couldn't be any added requirements from their side, especially when their amount is so small, that we would essentially, they could join the project, we would keep them informed, but we would have final say and control over what that project would look like and the implementation of service. And they couldn't reserve beds, but they would have the same amount of access without any restriction. So there wouldn't be like they have 3 beds reserved in perpetuity. It would be as the need is for the region, but they would continue to have access on a priority scale dependent upon law enforcement drop off and partnerships there. So that's what we're asking, or at least I'm asking to put forward to the board to continue exploring this with the Valley and potentially working with legal to get an interlocal in place. And of course, to work with Scott to ensure that expectations for their leadership and team would also fall in alignment with what we're expecting in our project. It's a small amount. They told me that their big sum, if right now, is 40,000 to 50,000, but that they would ultimately, so I got updated numbers. The 75 there is not what they would have available because of the other projects. It's closer to $40,000 or less that they would be able to give us, and they're promising that for the continuous amounts that they would receive in settlement funds up to the 17, 10, and 9, or whatever all those land. So it would change or flow based on which one ended and the amounts given. So one lump sum first, and then annually amounts distributed to us.
So do you know how much they've received as initially? Initially, they didn't get very much.
Yeah,
But I think some
originally
of
they
Other settlements have
they
more.
estimated, I think, 7 to 16,000, but that was as before they learned and we learned of the additional tranches coming in for the distributors, the manufacturers, the pharmacies. So I don't know what their dollar amount is, but I think that 50 to 75 is probably close to their annual amount that they're expecting to get. It's not very big. When the couple of the board members maybe recall when you were part of the establishment of the Opioid Abatement Council, we anticipated some of the smaller jurisdictions who were getting very small dollars probably wouldn't have the time and resources to be able to dedicate towards establishing a full program for the use of it. So we had conceptually talked about if another jurisdiction wants to, after this board has set the priorities for Spokane County and the investments you're going to make, if another jurisdiction wants to just say, hey, can we give you these dollars to use exactly for what you're using? No additional, we're not going to manage any other contracts or go out with RFPs for them. That's really what this one is. So the Valley came and said, hey, we have some dollars, we just don't have the ability to do some stuff with. Can we jump on one of your existing funding parties that the board has set? That's what they've done here. So really the ask is the board good with that? Us setting up an ILA, receiving dollars and managing exactly how the board intended those priorities to be.
Perfect. Well, thank you. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Thank you. Chandra. Oh, there's Chandra.
All right, it's you.
In the corner there. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
It's been a while.
It has. Well, it means things are slowing down, so that's. So I wanted to brief you this morning. As all of you are aware, the legislature did approve House Bill 1899 for additional resources for our residents who are recovering from the fires last year. We did receive the contract from the State Energy Department through the Department of Commerce. And it's got some very specific tasks, but it's a pretty simple contract. So it covers 3 programs to assist our residents. One is energy efficiency. So upgrading to high efficiency appliances such as heat pumps, heat pump water heaters, induction ranges, things like that. And then the second piece of it is solar, if they want to install solar panels for solar energy on their property. And the third program available is to construct charging stations for electric vehicles on their property if they would like to do that. So the good news is they've expanded the income eligibility up to moderate income. So instead of capping it at that 80% median income, they've increased that to 120% of the median income. So a little bit larger income availability there for folks. It is structured as a reimbursement. So there's no hard match or anything required from the county. We'll basically be functioning as a pass-through. We can either reimburse individuals if they've already gone out and purchased the appliances or the construction themselves, we can reimburse them. Or we can reimburse, like the LTRG if they've done purchasing for folks. Things like that, but we're simply a pass-through on this contract. They've provided 1.825 million for the total contract amount, and it's good for the fiscal year. I've already shared the information with the disaster case managers, so they're communicating that out, and then I've been playing phone tag with Mayor Cooper to get her up to date on this as well, and we're supposed to be able to touch base this afternoon. That's where we're at with it.
No, I was just gonna, I mean, you made it clear to us, and I would just ask that you make it clear that this is reimbursement. I know there's been confusion throughout over the last year and a half about reimbursements versus just a check that is handed over to then go spent. So you made it very clear to us. Please make it very clear to everybody else you have
Will do.
mentioned.
Will do.
So one question I have, so what is the 120% median income, household income, correct?
So all of our previous funding was capped at that 80%
Do you
of
know
the
what
median income.
Do you know what the median income is?
Not off the top of my head, ma'am, sorry. But it's, yeah.
It was 64, but I'm going from. It's low 60s.
yeah.
So I guess I'm trying to determine how many people fit that lost homes in that.
So if I'm perfectly honest about it, I'm not sure we'll have a lot of people interested in this opportunity. When you look at the energy efficiency measures, those are really high-end appliances. And you know, if you're replacing your single wide with another single wide or something like that, I'm not sure that's something you're actually going to have the funds to spend on, even if you are getting them reimbursed. So we'll see. I think we may have some individuals perhaps out in Medical Lake who might want to take advantage of the solar and the EV charging. But we'll see. I mean, the money's here and we'll make the opportunity available for everybody, but I'm not sure what we'll see in terms of takers.
Should be a way to figure out how many people this would actually be eligible for
Mhm.
this.
Yeah.
To then, so I'd be curious what that number
Okay.
is. And then how are we targeting them to let them know, I guess?
Okay.
Other than just through generic things, if there's a way that we can.
Well, we are working through the disaster case managers because they are still maintaining that ongoing contact with everybody. So that will be kind of our first push out into the community. And then, like I said, once I'm able to touch base with the mayor, then the LTRG will be putting it out through their avenues as well.
Yeah, just be curious how many people are really eligible.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I can find that out for you.
Anything else? Questions or comments for? Otherwise, is everything else going, we still have enough time on this. Everything else going okay on the recovery?
Yes.
Yeah, we haven't gotten an update for you from a while, so.
We're making progress. I know that the disaster case managers are continuing to do really good work. I can find out from the mayor when I speak to her later today, how many of the Mennonite homes have actually been completed. I know we have several that are underway, but things are moving along. You know, we're never gonna get them back to where they were, but hopefully, some better straits.
Has there been any movement with any of the agencies with regard to cleaning up the debris that's still in the lake?
Not that I have heard regarding the lake specifically. So, I mean, I know there's a lot of this going on right now.
Yeah.
And so I'm not sure how that's gonna be addressed.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay, you're welcome.
Morning, Ashley.
Okay, so I am just providing an update to the board. We currently offer a benefit to our employees for pet insurance called Trupanion Pet Insurance. In the past, Alliant had been brokering that benefit for us. Moving forward, we're requesting a change of broker and record of authorization to the group Aflac that brokers for us. Alliant is in full support of this change. It would align with the other supplemental benefits that we offer at the county, like hospital indemnity or accidental. And so it really just moves this one additional supplemental underneath the Aflac umbrella for the broker, meaning that broker would get any commissions that come with that account rather than that going to Alliant. So nothing changes for our employees. no impact financially to the county. It's just a record of authorization for changing brokers. And I just wanted to provide that information to you guys. Any questions that I can answer for you?
I'm just curious how long we've been operating. I didn't even know we offered it.
Last
It's open
2 years ago is when we started off. So it's fully paid for by the employees. The county doesn't subsidize any of it. So it's just like any other supplemental. If an employee wants to sign up for it, it's great. It's pretty cool for people that want to have that. There's a couple different options within the plan, based on what tier you choose. It could be anywhere from $5 to $100 a month on average, based on the age of your pets, what you're doing. But for some people that don't have human kiddos and have furry kiddos, those are typically what we see a lot of people kind of jumping on board for. So.
And is it open enrollment for that? Or can you enroll at any time?
We're in the middle of open enrollment right now. And then a qualifying event. So like if you get a new pet in the middle of the year or something like that, right, that would qualify you for the option to be able to add your pet at that point. It is a big thing for people like me that have animals that eat things they're not supposed to. It's a big deal. It's very helpful.
The qualifying event.
Oh, yes. Yeah, if you get a new dog, you can sign your new dog up.
Okay, so I guess I'm just gonna go with plug, but it is open enrollment right now for everything, right?
Yep, so benefit season is upon us. We had the benefit fair last week. Open enrollment officially started yesterday. Everyone should have an email in their inbox this morning with the just a reminder, step-by-step instructions. Last year, we did move to a fully online open enrollment, so you no longer have to bring paper forms to the HR office. So jump into your PeopleSoft account. It's a passive open enrollment, meaning if you have no changes in your benefits, then you don't need to do anything, with the exception of your FSA account. If you have a flex spending account, you will want to go in and select what those options are for next year for yourself and or for your dependents, but everything else is passive.
So I just caught the back part of that. Are you suggesting that pets are eligible for FSA?
No, I wish they were.
I heard that back part of that. I'm thinking, holy cow, we really got down the.
That'd be
Anyway.
amazing, but no, they are not recognized
Okay,
as such.
all right.
Not yet.
Not yet. It's coming.
Ashley, do you happen to have metrics on kind of the utilization rate of the pet insurance? I mean, is it 5 employees?
We're sitting around 20 right now, so it's not a lot, but there are a few. And for those people, it is a big deal. Since it's no cost to the county, we figured why not make it an option for people.
Oh, yeah, no, I think it's a great idea. So.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Steph and Heather.
Just changed auditor Copeland because she was gonna try to join us. Then I left my phone up, I guess, so I don't know if she responded. Compliment our legal team on their new color coded uniforms. The lilac and blue is very nice. We sit over there and look at that.
And Heather.
Yeah, Heather got to invite too. So hopefully Vicky will show up in a moment. Before she does, wanted to comment, 2 o'clock today, you'll see the Frame Your Future 300,000. That was a mutual, so I'm not going to get to it. That's a net gain to the general fund in the end. Next week, you'll see the Launch Northwest. You guys approved verbally. It's gone from 600 down to 400,000, as 200,000 was going to go against one of the city ARPs. I don't know if it's the city or the valley. So those two are both general fund increases in the end. Next week, you'll also see a small medical examiner procurement issue we need to fix. And then the public works, we talked about the 2 projects. We're gonna move to the other project. Those are budget neutral as far as general fund is concerned. Both the expense and the ARP are moving together to the general fund. And I guess we'll just start because you guys are on a time crunch.
We're actually ahead of time, so we're.
Oh. And we have a story to tell for a minute then. I'll let her join in. I did go over these comments with her, so they're pre-approved.
Yeah, no, since it's her department, it's like, good for her. Here, but I guess, yeah, go ahead.
So we have an Eide Bailey accounting firm contract before you. This is in regards to the big ARP swap that we discussed a couple of weeks ago, where we'd be paying them historic wages that qualify for ARP, but doing it a little bit retroactively. We're not looking to Eide Bailey on the allowance of this, that's a legal question, so we're looking to our legal department for that. We're looking to Eide Bailly for guidance and their opinion on the accounting correct way to do it. Generally, we've identified two different thought processes, and they might come up with additional, whether we're gonna do it historically and actually amend the previous years and then do some refiling, or if we do it all in the 2024 where it actually happens and reference the historic. So it's getting, a national large accounting firms guidance and support on that particular issue. It's a small contract, maximum of $10,000. There is a indemnification clause in it, which still needs to come before the board. We're expecting it to be a $3,000 to $5,000 bill. It's one of those hourly rates. The engagement letter is in your 2 o'clock packet. If you scroll through that, this is on this afternoon for, at this point, a final decision if the board so desires. But it's really just getting that other piece of advice on the best way to do this. You want to talk about yesterday's GFOA call and the Texas?
Yeah, and it appears that we are not the only ones making these adjustments. There were people from all over the nation making similar, using category 3 in one form or another to make these similar type of adjustments, leaving their projects in the general fund, moving ARP general fund expenses into one category of 3.1 or multiple.
Yeah, I'm. I mean,
Not
I think-
surprising.
Yeah, I think that's happening as the rules have, we know how many rule changes has there been since it started?
When version 18 of the quote final rules.
So over the years, I mean, the rules just have kept changing, so I think everyone's been trying to adjust to it. So, as a former auditor, I mean, I'm okay with the contract, to make sure that if what they're seeing happen, even though they're not auditing in the state of Washington, they're auditing government organizations in other states across the nation, so they're gonna have an idea as to what to do. And I think it just helps us with our auditors to have, knowing that an accounting firm has looked at it and thinks this is the best way to go. I haven't seen where we've gone back historically and changed things, so I'm anticipating we'll be doing everything within 24 and noting it. And may have,
That's our in-house conclusion also. to
Yeah.
date.
probably a footnote, that will happen in the financials, but it's good to get that second opinion with the state auditor's office.
And just to clarify, you're not actually approving the contract today. It's a scope of engagement letter that kind of limits the parameter and the financial cap. And then Auditor Dalton and her shop, Tim and Sally, will actually do a contract to kind of narrow the scope down and make sure it gets within the part-time frame, which, as we all know, is getting to be short. And Macy here did look at it, said there's a few things he might change if it was a bigger contract. But based on the size and everything, comfortable with it, is that a proper
Here she
summation?
comes.
That's correct, Madam Chair.
Good morning, Vicky.
Good morning. Sorry, trying to do about 5 things at the same time.
You're a little busy right now, so I understand. So Jeff just kind of went over it, but just get your thoughts on the need and why you want to do it.
Yes, so with Eide Bailly, we were looking for some very technical expertise on how to properly present any of these changes in the financial statements. So we're hoping we don't have to go back and restate, that we'll just be able to handle it in the current year. But even so, this is a pretty technical question, how we need to present this in the financial statements. So that's what this contract would be about.
It'll be in the financial statements as well as if we go back into the federal system to do it.
Yes.
So both pieces of the federal reporting.
Yeah, all the ripple effect of whatever we do in the financial statements.
Questions? So why we have you here, See what's on the news here recently, and I heard you were on the news last night. So, we pick up ballots here in Spokane County twice a day at this point, right? So
It depends upon the specific Dropbox location, so some are picked up once a day, some are gonna be picked up more frequently. Some of them are not picked up every day over the weekend. So there are some drop boxes where at the end of an election, we think it's been great if we get a total of 66 ballots in that particular drop box for the entire election. Others, we can get 1,800 a couple of times a day. So it just depends upon the location of the drop box and the volume of the drop box.
yeah, I go to Amber. Commissioner Waldron?
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to say I appreciate you bringing forth this agreement. I think I had a couple questions when we were talking about making these different switches with the ARPA funds and the general fund. So I think it's a good idea to do this to make sure our, we're doing all of our counting correctly. And so anyway, I just appreciate you guys bringing this forward.
Thank you. Commissioner Chris.
On the news last night, they were displaying some drop boxes that I think they were either in Portland or Vancouver. I don't know which one. But the drop box actually had a video camera. And that's what they were recording, and that's how they think they might know who sabotaged the one box. Do we have video surveillance? And if not, should we? And is it too late to do that?
So the county does not have cameras on the drop boxes. So our drop boxes are located at government facilities, so libraries, city halls, and the STA Plaza. So there would be surveillance or video cameras if that particular organization, jurisdiction has cameras on them.
Okay. Okay.
And that is a debate that we auditors have over and over again.
Is whether to have surveillance or not.
Yeah.
What would be the opposition to having surveillance?
As with everything, you have to deal with the Public Records Act.
Okay.
Be the cost too of getting cameras at each of those locations and the storage of the. Because even just at the auditor's offices, they were looking at getting the cameras there. The cost is a lot. I mean, how much? You got a grant, but it was.
Yeah, I don't remember what the total cost is, but yeah, cost is one thing, but it's really the issue. Overhead costs, personnel, maintenance, and then again, just dealing with the requirements of the Public Records Act.
How long you store it and keep it.
How long you store it, keep it, and then just dealing with reviewing the footage when someone makes a request. I honestly say we do not have enough people in the Public Records Office.
I guess, I mean, if there was a risk or if we got word or threats or something, I mean, we could always talk with the sheriff that at least in the meantime, parking some of those, the cows, the cameras on wheels, I mean, the old SUVs with the cameras on top. I mean, if we had, credible threats or something like that, I mean, that could at least cover a few locations.
Yes, and we have our contacts in law enforcement. We're talking with.
I forgot to mention one piece. What we paid for the ARP, that category 3.5. So although for Dalton's office will be working with Ike Bailey on the scope of the contract, 3.5. Randy as the finance director as a signature on that, was Ashley is on the HR stuff. So he would be the payment side, although they're the nuts and bolts side. But it will be covered with ARP funds.
Any other questions on that? Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming down, Vicki. I know you're busy.
Good, and now I'm running off to actually talk to law enforcement. Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, then that's gonna take us to Chris Jordan.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to just circle back for some additional conversation on a topic that we've had come up a couple times in the past month. And that's the idea of convening a task force related to PFAS on the West Plains. So we first talked about it on October 8th. And my recollection from that meeting was there was some back and forth about what to do. I think Commissioner Kearns had suggested inviting the Department of Ecology and some other stakeholders here for a meeting so we could get updated on their ongoing efforts. And I think we all agreed that was a good thing. And then last Tuesday, I was just wanted to say I was encouraged by Commissioner French when you updated us at the 2 o'clock legislative session and said that you'd spoken with a few different groups about their interests and that we were moving forward. And you'd be reporting back soon. So that's great. And we've had a number of citizens, as the board knows, testify in our open public forum, thanking us for agreeing to form a task force. And so I just wanted to maybe confirm so that we're clear as a group what we've agreed to. Have we agreed to invite these groups for a single meeting, or have we agreed to really move forward on the formation of a task force? In which case, I think it'd make a lot of sense to continue reaching out to stakeholders to gauge their interests. So that's kind of the first piece. I'm hoping we can just kind of clarify where we want to go. And I'll just say that speaking for myself, as I said on the 8th, I'm certainly supportive of both and the task force piece specifically. And if the board agrees that that's the direction we want to move, or at least actively consider, there's a lot to discuss in that topic, more than we have time for this morning, I know. I just wanted to suggest that we talk about the scope of what a task force could do. Really come up with a list that we all agree on of the stakeholders who could be invited or engaged, how and when. We may want to make formal invitations. We may want to talk about a structure of such a group at some point. And I would love to hear from Rob and his team in Water Resources about any input they have, given their years of experience working with stakeholders on water issues and kind of being our resident experts. Alternatively, if we've only agreed to really have an update meeting, then I just wanted to ask, when are we going to do that? And can we get it moving? So that was kind of the impetus for the request. So would love your feedback.
So, not knowing what this today was going to bring, I've got two things to share with you. As I said last week, I started the process of putting together a list of potential stakeholders. And so that was my list as of last week. And the list has grown. So I am going to provide you with an update of the list with people that have agreed to be part of the task force. And they are indicated on the sheet. And this list is a evolving list, because just this morning I had the opportunity to finally connect with Mr. Hancock, who agreed to participate in the task force, and I'm very grateful for that. But you will see that he was one of the original folks that I was reaching out to, and thought it would be critical to have him involved with it, because he certainly represents some of that citizen input that we need in part of this process. So every one of these people on this list has got their fingers on one aspect of this or another. The people that don't have a response next to them either means that I'm waiting for a response. And specifically Riley Smith, I put in a call to him, and and asked him to be part of it, but I've not heard back. Lisette has agreed, Christina's agreed. I did have a very good conversation yesterday with Brooke Beeler with Ecology, and she said that both her, well, and I think I would paraphrase that, also had a conversation with Frank Velasquez with the health department, and both of them were very eager and willing to be part of the task force. They said, we would like to be part of the initial forming and shaping of it. And then we might end up appointing somebody within an organization that would be closer to the topic to be able to continue on. But for the initial meetings and stuff, both of them said, we really want to be part of it. Chad Pritchard, Mayor Cooper, like I said, everybody that has got a yes or pending. The pending is Jeff Johnson and stuff with Fairchild. He, when I talked to him, expressed a desire to be part of it, but had to run it up the chain of command to make sure that his superiors would be supportive of him engaging in the process. But from a willingness standpoint, he certainly would like to be part of that conversation. Dan Clark has been part of the leadership group, and I'm sure that he will want to continue to be part of this. But because I have not specifically talked to him, I did not want to overrepresent who I've talked to and who I haven't. Everybody on here that's got a yes, I've personally talked to, and they've confirmed that they would be part of it. I did have a conversation this morning with regard to Jessica Pilgrim and Ben Batterpo, and Scott indicated that, of course, they'll support this. But again, if I have not personally talked to them, I don't represent that. The only other group that I have not had a personal conversation with, and maybe this is something that you might want to do, Mr. Jordan, is reach out to Mayor Brown and see if the city wants to be part of this or not. I can do it. I can do it after Wednesday, but prior to that, my guess is that there's not going to be a commitment one way or the other until after that. So if you want to do that, that'd be great. The city should be part of this because they.
After Wednesday, what do you mean?
After the election.
Oh, next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday. Yeah. You might not know that because you don't have an opponent. I do. But this is the group that's been put together. And so once we've got the group, then the next step, I think, is having that meeting that we talked about. And I think having Brooke Beeler and Frank Velasquez as part of that meeting, because they are working together. There is, I heard in doing my outreach that there is another group that has been put together that includes Ecology and Department of Health and stuff like that. I was under the impression it was a task force. It is not. It's a interagency coordination committee. And they are working to make sure that the joint efforts between the agencies are coordinated, but they are not looking for a solution. They're looking for ways to make sure that they're being efficient with their time and energy. I did represent to both Brooke Beeler and to Frank Velasquez. Their agencies cannot lobby for money. They're restricted from doing that. And I said, well, this is a great opportunity for us to partner with you because the county can lobby for money, both at the state and federal level. And that's why I have Mike Burgess on here at the state level and John Colton at the federal level, so that, we have their expertise to be able to go after money and hopefully be efficient at that process. I know that when we discovered the EPA challenge with regard to excluding Airway Heights in the West Plains from their list of burdened communities, met with Lisette, and she jumped right into it and contacted EPA and tried to persuade them that they need to, one, either update their maps to include us, or find a fix to where the West Plains is eligible to be able to go after federal funding. So got a great relationship with Lisette and Christina, and I believe with Riley as well. So I think at the federal level, and I have the two people from the county on here. Originally, I had Mary Cooney, and but then that makes it a meeting of the board. So Josh Kearns was with me when we did all the presentations, the federal delegation in Washington, DC. He's got knowledge, and he's also got wells in his district, much like Commissioner Cooney does. But I've got him on this list as well, so that we're the two of the three commissioner districts that are going to be impacted by wells the most and stuff. So that's kind of what I've done so far. November is going to be a challenging month to try and find a time for Brooke and Ms. Beeler and Mr. Velasquez to come in. But if we can allocate some time, I will work to get them here and do the update from their standpoint. And it might be, as a suggestion, instead of having us try and meet all in here, maybe this is something we do in the hearing room, so that people in the audience can hear as well. But that's what I've done so far. And those are the people I've talked so far. So trying to move the ball forward and get to a point where we can find some relief for those folks. Oh, you will notice on here, I do have Eco Water Systems and David Evans. Eco Water Systems is the national firm that is working on filtration for PFAS. I have talked to them at the national level, but they recommended talking to David here locally, who is their franchise operator here locally. I've had a couple of conversations with David, and they are working, evidently they've installed the majority of the POET systems on the West Plains, and I thought he would have the greatest knowledge about latest and greatest technology. So that's why he's on there. There are other providers for filtration systems on the West Plains. I've only talked to one of them, but David seems to be the most connected with what they're doing at the national level. So that's why I have him on the list. So anyway, that's what I've done so far this morning.
So the status bar, you're saying you personally spoke with each of those
Yep.
folks? Good. Well, thanks for this. I appreciate having this list of folks. Glad to know that we're moving forward. And
Yep.
that that's something we agreed to. Can we pick a date or a goal for this EPA or ecology board meeting? Just hoping we can get something specific scheduled, or at least ideas of when that might happen.
Yeah, I'd be happy to try and coordinate that with Brooke Beeler at Ecology and stuff. My guess is we'll probably need a couple dates so that we can make sure that it fits into her schedule.
And she can zoom in.
Pardon?
She can zoom in.
Well, yeah, no, I appreciate that. But I know that, it's just like when I talked to her yesterday, she was at a national conference and stuff. So I don't know what her schedule is. So that's why I was suggesting a couple dates so that we can find one that meets for everybody's schedule and target in on it.
No, and I'm gonna check with Jim, but it's like having no more than two commissioners, because we don't want it to be a meeting where people think a decision's being made.
Yeah.
In a public setting, because that wouldn't be truly a meeting of the board.
The other issue, Commissioner French and board members, is depending on what you clothe the task force with, they may or may not be subject to the Open Public Meetings Act. If you clothe them with simply recommendations, then the OPMA does not apply unless you want it to apply. So as you move forward to create this structure, Commissioner French, we can address those issues as the composition, their responsibilities, and move forward in that direction.
Yeah, the only other person, and at some point we've got to resolve this issue, is I personally would like to see Tom McDonald on this list. He's the attorney that we've contracted with, and I know that there's a disagreement about whether we have or have not, or will not, or should not. I'd like to be able to get that resolved so that we can bring his expertise to the table. And then there's one other person, as I mentioned before, the Walla Walla Trust Agreement is already in place, and it deals with water rights in Oregon that were brought into Washington to be able to provide a shift in water rights situations. I've got property owner in Northern Idaho that's willing to use his water rights to help us try and get something. So that expertise is something we don't have on this list yet. And I think it would be critical to have that kind of legal input to make sure that, you know, we're not chasing rabbits that we don't need to be chasing. Just like, you know, I did have this conversation with Ben Bradabo. One of the suggestions that Tom said was, well, if you can get your water reclamation facility permitted as a true water reclamation instead of what we call it, it's through the NEPA process, that you know, we can then transfer that water. And so I asked Ben about that and what would be involved, and he said that, you know, it might be just adding some more filters to the system, but that he was going to look into it. And I haven't had a follow-up with him, so I don't know what would be involved in that. But I mean, that's one opportunity. I think we've got 3 opportunities on the table to move forward with, but need access to legal. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Commissioner Waldron?
Well, thank you. I appreciate, I guess I'll get a copy of the list of organizations when I'm back, or somebody could send that to me. That'd be great. I think it's important that we, as Commissioner Jordan was saying, like really define what the scope of the group will be. Is it going to be first focused on public health and protecting people's health now? Is it going to be looking at long-term water solutions? Because that will determine if we can figure out what the scope is, then who else we might want to invite to the table. And just a comment about what Brooke Beeler had to say. I wonder I know that Ecology has hired someone to do advocacy at the federal level around Hanford cleanup dollars. So I know they do work to advocate at the federal level for funding. So maybe we can explore that further. I know Ecology submits requests to the governor's budget for funding at the state level. So just an opportunity. That's another piece of potential scope would be, you know, once we've decided the different gaps and opportunities and where we want to focus, then how to go after different funds. But I appreciate the update, Commissioner French, and I'll look over the list and give feedback on other groups. But I think getting that first meeting scheduled would be great, so we can really start focusing in on scope. So those are my thoughts.
So you're gonna reach out to Brooke?
Yeah.
And can we just maybe report back next week so we can
Sure.
try to put something on the calendar? That'd be
Yeah.
great.
No, that's fine.
Good,
Yeah.
thank you. Okay, and then I'd love to make sure Rob, Ben, and those folks are advising us as we go forward, looking at scope and different lists. I know you said you met with Ben, that's great. There's a lot to this potentially when you talk about different scopes, and so I think their advice will be critical.
So I said, I had a conversation with Ben. I didn't have a meeting with him. I had a conversation. I grabbed him between meetings and he said, oh, by the way. And so I don't want to give you the impression I had a nice long meeting with him. I didn't. It was about a 5-10 minute conversation.
Okay, we have one miscellaneous that we need to get to before we try to get out of here. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll try to be quick. So commissioners, you all have received a letter from the Shrek Board, our Emergency Communications, Regional Emergency Communications Board. As you recall, we've got a transition team that's been set up between Shrek, the city of Spokane, and two board commissioners. That would be Commissioner Cutie and Commissioner Commissioner Kearns. And so they've been part of our transition team meeting with the city of Spokane to go through some of the outstanding items that the city has presented wanting to resolve on. One of them has been related to the governance board, and in the letter, you'll see that the city had presented some type of governance board, which is different from what it looks today as a request. I'll certainly let Commissioner Kearns and Commissioner Keeney speak to this as well. There was some discussion at the transition team meeting. Wasn't really a lot of interest in supporting what the city was asking for. The Shrek board took an action last week to reaffirm their recommendation to this board, which would be if the city joins with their police dispatch, then the recommendation would be to add the city of Spokane police chief. That's been very consistent with what this board originally accepted when the charter was created. That was a regional based charter. The city of Spokane would have had their city administrator, their fire chief, and their police chief. Their city administrator and their police and their fire chief were added to the Shrek board by charter by the county commissioners once their fire dispatch joined a year and a half ago, thereabouts. So again, just reaffirming the recommendation that the police chief gets added, not adopting what the city had presented. So I'll work with legal. I know we've got two board members who are there and offer their viewpoints. And I think the next step would be that Shrek's looking for affirmation by this board that says that is the direction that we would go should the city of Spokane join with the law dispatch. So I think that probably would be via resolution that would say, if the city does join, here's what the governing board would look like with the additional police chief position.
And that would give them more seats than any other entity or jurisdiction, correct?
Yeah, they would have three on the 10-member board. Yeah. So just wanted to give a follow-up because you had received that email and Shrek was hoping for some. It's just one of those issues. Let's put it to bed because it's stopping further progress from the discussions that Shrek is having with the city of Spokane. So answer this one, move on to the next remaining topics. Can I characterize that?
Yeah, because I mean, essentially a concept as referenced in the letter here, a sort of a new model that was presented would have created an additional board. So you'd had your Shrek board, but then it would create another executive board that would handle financial issues, and then the current
That was all made
Shrek-
with elected.
Yeah, that was correct. And then the existing Shrek board would only be policy or operations. And I think those, I mean, I'm not an expert when it comes to 911, but I would think the funding and the operations are pretty well connected. So I would rather just leave that under the folks that are experts when it comes to the operations and the policies there. And so I wasn't supportive of standing up a whole new board and having multiple boards running the one entity.
Yeah, as I've continued to be part of this and continue to think about it, that as Shrek formed, we've had the other jurisdictions that were not part of Shrek that have come on to Shrek and have been appreciated what Shrek is doing. I'm just feeling like Shrek is a well-run organization. If the city, isn't feeling that way, then I think it's going to be time for them to go on their own. Because I don't think we need to tear down Shrek and rebuild it. And that's what I feel like is kind of what the city is wanting to do as they come forward. And there was, you know, an event that I went to where I was talking to two gentlemen on both sides of apartheid in South Africa and how you had to really tear down the company, rebuild it for the purposes that they needed to. And I'm struggling with why do we need to redo Shrek? And because it is well run, it is working very well. We are trying to keep the politics out of it, so that way we are doing what's safe for our citizens across the entire county. And I think it's one of those you can choose to join, which other jurisdictions have chosen to join, and the city has chosen to join with the fire department. They can choose to come on board or choose not to. I think it's really coming down to just a choice that they need to make, whether they want to come on board or not. I don't want to destroy what Shrek has formed over the last 5 years, or adjust just to meet someone else's thoughts. So I want to keep it whole and we need to get going.
Gotta get rolling.
Yeah, Amber, go ahead and then we got to get going. So I will be.
Okay, I know I won't belabor it. I just was wondering if there's any other changes in the governance that the city is looking at besides the board member question that you were just describing.
They came up with a whole alternative. So Gina sent it out this morning. I don't know that it was in our packet, but it did come out. So you can take a look at that and feel free to give me a call on it.
Oh, okay. So sorry, I probably just didn't see that yet, but I'll review it. I guess if we are going to consider any changes to the structure of the board, we'd have to go through a public process around that, right, Mr. Amacio?
That's correct. That's correct. We'd have to go through and amend the charter, but I think what I heard Scott say is to make it clear that if the city police decides to join, then we would amend the charter to include one additional person being the city chief of police. But it'd be a two-step process. First, a resolution of our intention, and then if they did join, we'd amend the charter.
Okay, I'll review and follow up if I have questions.
Thank you. Okay, we are going to adjourn for the morning and we'll see everybody back for the 2 o'clock. And hopefully people can join us at the